Today, I'm going to take you to a wild roller coaster ride. A love story so tangled it's like comparing a library book to a rock concert ticket. Now, I know you're wondering who the quiet library book is. Well, it's me, Jason. And the rock concert ticket? Oh, that's Maggie. A celebrity. The girl who could turn the dullest day into a whirlwind just by showing up. So, back in high school, I was, well, how do I put this nicely? I was awkward. The kind of awkward where your glasses fog up if you even think about talking to a girl. My hair? A perpetual mess. I wasn't exactly what you'd call popular. Or, well, anything remotely good-looking either. Acne? Oh yeah, I had it all. My glasses were so thick they could probably be used as a magnifying glass. A slouch so bad that people probably thought I was melting into my own shadow. And if you're sitting there thinking, but you grew out of it, right? Nope. I'm still awkward and ugly. I didn't magically transform into a prince overnight. Anyway, it was the start of the semester at college, and there I was, blending into the background like wallpaper. Martin, my buddy, with his knack for making jokes even when he shouldn't, sauntered over with that grin of his. "Ready for the new challenge?" he asked, eyeing Maggie, the sparkle in the room, sitting back with her mischievous pals, chatting and scribbling answers. Martin had this way of making everything sound like a stand-up routine. I smiled at him, blinking, just trying to understand what challenge he is talking about. After the exam, I was sitting at my usual spot in the cafeteria, probably playing with the food on my tray more than actually eating it. Then, out of nowhere, I saw him, Martin, coming my way with that smirk on his face that always meant trouble. Martin is one of those guys who could make you laugh even if your life was going up in flames. Like, if the world were ending, he'd probably crack a joke about it. "Ready for the new challenge?" he said, as he plopped down across from me. I blinked at him, not sure where this was going. Challenge? I didn't sign up for anything. He leaned in, his eyes glinting like he was about to drop some kind of wisdom bomb on me. "You know Maggie, right?" "Yeah, I know Maggie," I said, trying to sound casual, but my heart was doing this weird, fluttery thing it always did when I heard her name. Now, Maggie. Maggie was, well, everything I wasn't. Confident. Mischievous. Wild. I'm talking about a girl with a heart tattoo on her ankle and a smile that could brighten the darkest day. But don't go behind her smile, she is really mischievous. She ate all her classmates' tiffin when she was a child. That's what her friends say. She is separated from her father after a heated argument. Now, living alone in an apartment. She is rich and is dating the most handsome guy in the school. And me? I was just the guy holding the door open for her, that too being invisible. "Here's the thing, buddy," Martin continued, clearly loving whatever plan he had cooked up. "You're gonna get her to notice you." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Right. And after that, I'll turn into a superhero and save the day. Not happening, man. But Martin wasn't backing down. He leaned back in his chair, giving me that look he always did when he thought he had the upper hand. Come on, Jason. You've been invisible long enough. It's time to change the game. Change the game? I repeated, my skepticism practically dripping off my words. Dude, the only game I'm good at involves puzzles, not people. But somehow, he got into my head. Maybe it was the frustration of always being unnoticed, or maybe I was just tired of being the wallpaper in everyone's lives. Either way, Martin had planted a seed. That evening, I was in the kitchen helping Mom chop vegetables. The rhythmic clinking of the knife against the cutting board was soothing. During dinner, Grandma started one of her legendary stories, which she repeats time to time, forgetting that she had already told this story more than 1,000 times. You know, she started, your grandfather once went on a quest to a magical kingdom hidden behind a mountain and a waterfall. There, the king was so impressed with him that he asked what reward he wanted. Your grandfather asked for money, and the king granted his wish. When he came back, the treasure changed our family's fortunes. I chuckled again. Grandma, that sounds like a fairy tale. Later that night, I found myself thinking about Maggie, about what it would take for someone like her to even see someone like me. I sighed, rolling over in bed, staring at the ceiling. What would it take? I whispered to myself. The room felt different, warmer, almost like a presence was there with me. I blinked, sitting up. And there she was, Maggie, standing at the foot of my bed, her eyes soft, the moonlight spilling in behind her, giving her an almost ethereal glow. My breath caught in my throat. This couldn't be real. Could it? Maggie? I whispered. She didn't say a word, just smiled. That same smile that always made my chest tighten in the best way. She moved closer, her hand reaching out, and I felt her fingers touch mine. It was soft, electric, like every nerve in my body was suddenly aware of her. She held my hand, and I could feel the warmth of her skin against mine. She leaned in, her breath warm against my cheek, her hand still holding mine. My whole body froze, anticipation building as her lips hovered just inches from mine. This was it. Everything I had wanted, everything I had imagined in all those sleepless nights thinking about her. And then, just as her lips were about to touch mine, I blinked. Morning light flooded the room. I shot up in bed, my heart still racing, my eyes wide and confused. The room was empty. I was alone. That was a beautiful dream, I said, smiling. The next day, I was a bit late for the exam. Everyone was planning something or the other as the exam was over. I and Martin were sitting in the cafeteria. Martin said, "Jason, Maggie is going to the club for the party with her friends." "So?" I said, blinking my eyes. "We should go there too. Be ready in the evening. I will pick you up." Martin, always the instigator, practically dragged me along, "Come on, Jason. You never know what might happen," he said. Maggie was out celebrating the end of exams with her friends at a club. The place was full of lights and laughter. The bass was so loud it could rattle your bones, trying to muster the courage to propose to Maggie. I tried to catch her eye, but it was like fishing in a dry pond, futile and frustrating. Maggie was too wrapped up in the party to notice my clumsy attempts. Feeling like a shadow, I moped home, helped my mom in the kitchen, and during dinner, grandmother again started the story. Today, I asked more about the magical kingdom. Where exactly is this place? How does one get magical powers? I questioned. Grandma took out the map from her old chest and showed me. My curiosity piqued. That night, under the soft glow of my bedside lamp, I made up my mind. If the magical kingdom was real, maybe I could find any solution to my invisible life, and one day I will be recognized. The next day, I told Martin about my plan. "Martin," I said, catching my breath, "I've got a wild plan. I'm going to that magical kingdom. I might get something out of it." Martin's eyes lit up with excitement. "Count me in. I've always wanted to go on a magical adventure. Think of the stories we could tell." I shook my head with a chuckle. "I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I need you to stay here. Take care of my mother and grandmother while I'm gone. I'm not sure how long this will take, and they'll need someone to look after them." Martin's grin didn't falter. "All right, I'll keep the home fires burning. Just promise me you'll come back with a good story, and maybe a souvenir." I left home early the next morning, my mind buzzing with the excitement of a child on a treasure hunt. The world outside was still sleepy, and the crisp air felt like a promise of new beginnings. With a map in one hand and a heart full of hope, I set off toward the mountain my grandmother had described. The journey to the mountain was like a scene from an old adventure film, minus the grand soundtrack and dramatic voiceovers. The path was a winding ribbon of dirt and stones, snaking through dense woods that seemed to whisper secrets with every rustle. My steps were light, almost hesitant, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting to see if I was worthy of its mysteries. When I finally reached the base of the mountain, it stood before me like a silent giant, its peak lost in the clouds. It was both awe-inspiring and daunting, a true testament to nature's grandeur. I took a deep breath and began the climb, my muscles straining with each step, but my spirit soaring. At the top of the mountain, there was a majestic castle, ancient and enigmatic, perched like a forgotten jewel. As I approached, I couldn't help but feel a mix of trepidation and wonder. The castle's stone walls seemed to hum with a magic that tingled on my skin. Inside the castle, I was greeted by the king. He was regal and imposing, with a presence that demanded respect. I tried to make a good impression, explaining my journey and my wish to prove the existence of this magical place. The king sat back on his throne, his gaze weighing heavily on me. I shifted my feet, trying to steady my nerves. He finally spoke, his voice deep and almost echoing in the grand hall. "You are not the first to come here seeking proof," he said, his tone indifferent. "What makes you think you deserve what others could not obtain?" I swallowed hard, feeling the pressure of his words. "I don't know if I deserve anything," I began, choosing my words carefully. "But I've always felt overlooked, unseen. My whole life I've been searching for something to make me feel like I matter. This kingdom, your kingdom, is real, and I needed to see it with my own eyes. I'm not here for riches or power. I just want to be someone." The king studied me for a long moment, then leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. "And what if you find that being someone is more of a burden than a gift?" His question caught me off guard. "A burden?" He nodded slowly. "Power changes people. Some seek it, thinking it will fill the emptiness inside. But once they have it, they realize they've lost more than they gained." I hesitated. "I'm willing to take that chance." The king's lips curled into a faint, almost knowing smile. "Very well. But be careful what you wish for." I blinked and said, "I want to be powerful and strong." The king clapped 3 times, and 2 men brought a plate covered with a royal piece of cloth. The king removed the cloth. I could see a tiny bottle. The king took the bottle in his hand, looked at me and said, "I give you the magical power to be strong with your mind and body." Saying this, he sprinkled the potion on me. My body started to grow. Now, I was even taller and larger. The king told me to remove my glasses. Now I could see even without glasses. I thanked the king. He said, "One day you will return back to me." I didn't understand what he wanted to say. I waved at him, saying goodbye. When I returned home from the kingdom, I felt like a completely different person. Not just on the outside, taller, stronger, sharper, but inside too. The Jason who used to blend into the background was gone. Now everyone noticed me. Especially Maggie. I used to dream of moments like this, where her eyes would linger on me, where she'd flash me that playful, mischievous smile. And now, for the first time, she was actually seeing me. Really seeing me. It was everything I thought I'd wanted. But with this new power came something else, something darker. At home, I stopped caring. Mom would ask for help with dinner, and I'd just wave her off. My grandmother would start telling one of her stories, the kind that used to captivate me for hours, but I'd just roll my eyes. I didn't have time for any of that anymore. I was different. I was better now. Or so I thought. At college, I noticed the change in how people treated me. Girls giggled as I walked by, and guys didn't try to mess with me. And Maggie's smiles became a little brighter when they were aimed at me. She even started hanging around more. She was so close and yet so far. The problem was, she had a boyfriend. Some guy who didn't deserve her. Every time I saw them together, laughing, holding hands, it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I couldn't stand it. I had to do something. I had the power to make things right, to make her see that I was the one she should be with. So I acted. One afternoon, I saw them together, sitting by the fountain, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. And before I knew it, I was pulling Maggie away from him, dragging her to a secluded spot where no one could find us. She struggled, confused, but I was too far gone to see it. When she came to, she was tied to a chair, her eyes wide and scared. It wasn't the reaction I had expected. I thought she'd finally understand, finally see that I did all this because I loved her. But when she looked at me, it wasn't with admiration. It was fear. "Jason, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I love you, Maggie," I said, pacing in front of her. "I did all of this for you. I became stronger, better, for you. Don't you see? We're meant to be together." Her brow furrowed, and she looked at me like I was a stranger. "Jason, this isn't you," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You've changed. You're not the person I knew. You're better than this." I stopped pacing and stared at her, my chest tightening. "But I am better now. I'm stronger. I can protect you. I can give you everything." She shook her head slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. "No, Jason. You're not better. You've lost yourself. You've forgotten who you are, who you used to be. The Jason I cared about was kind, gentle. He didn't need power to prove his worth. He just needed to be himself." Her words hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over me and pulling me under. Suddenly, I could see what I had become. This wasn't me. I wasn't the guy who used to laugh at my grandmother's stories or help my mom in the kitchen. I wasn't the friend Martin had always counted on. I dropped to my knees in front of her, untying the ropes with shaking hands. I'm sorry," I whispered. "I don't know what I was thinking. I never wanted to hurt you, Maggie. I just wanted to be enough." Maggie rubbed her wrists where the ropes had been, but she didn't run. She stayed, her eyes softening as she looked at me. "Jason, you've always been enough. You didn't need to change for me. I saw you, even when you thought no one did. I just wanted you to see yourself the way I saw you." Her words, so simple, so true, felt like a balm to my heart. I had been so focused on becoming someone else, someone I thought she needed, that I forgot the one thing she wanted was for me to be me. "I have to fix this," I muttered, standing up. "I have to go back." When I returned to the kingdom, the king was waiting for me. His eyes, sharp and knowing, seemed to see right through me. "I knew you'd come back," he said, his voice calm. I fell to my knees, the weight of my mistakes crushing me. "Please," I begged. "Take it back. Take all of it back. I don't want this power anymore. I just want to be me." The king nodded, raising his hand. With a wave, I felt the strength drain from my body, leaving me just as I had been before. My glasses returned, my height shrank, and the weight of my power was lifted from my shoulders. When I went back to Maggie, she was waiting for me by the shore. The sun was setting behind her, casting a golden glow over her face, her brown hair catching in the breeze. I walked up to her, nervous but determined. I wasn't the strong, powerful guy I had tried to be, but I was me. And that had to be enough. "Maggie," I said, my voice soft but steady. "I know I messed up. I know I've been all kinds of wrong lately. But I love you. I've always loved you. And if you'll give me a chance, I promise I'll never try to be anything other than who I am again." She looked at me for a long moment, then smiled, a real smile, the kind that lit up her whole face. "Jason, I don't need you to be anything but yourself. I've always seen you. I just needed you to see it too." My heart swelled as she stepped closer, her hand slipping into mine. The warmth of her touch felt like home, like everything I'd been searching for all along. I didn't need power or strength. I didn't need to be anything more than Jason. As we stood there, watching the waves roll in, Maggie leaned her head against my shoulder, and I knew this was everything I had ever wanted. Just me and her and the promise of something real. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours. And for the first time, I knew that was more than enough.